Okay, I'm just gonna stop responding in the chat because it's driving me crazy. Thank you for all the people in the chat. I'm very thankful for you, but I don't know if anyone else has noticed. And by the way, so many friends. Oh my god. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but in YouTube there is sometimes this bug. I don't hit it always. That if you put a smiley face, I think somewhere in your message, or at least at the end, your whole message is gone, and it just shows the smiley face. Very annoying because I like to add a smiley face, then my whole message is gone. Happened 2 times in like 1 minute just now. Well, sorry to come in frustration, but thank you, Steve, because he was wishing me a happy birthday, which he knows because he's watching my channel, my YouTube channel, and I'm sure all of you are as well. On which I dropped some subtle hints. It was about a calendar plugin, and I honestly didn't know it was going to happen. So I have this calendar plugin that reads like your calendar events, and I was showing the demo, and I didn't like I knew the code, I knew what it was going to do, but I prepared it on Windows, and then I did it on my physical Android device that I have lying around, but it's logged into my Google account. And apparently, Google Calendar puts some kind of event in your calendar, like "Hey, happy birthday" or something. So that came up, and I just went with it in my video. So now people know my birthday. I've doxed my birthday. Um, anyway, talking too much about myself. Brandon, how have you been doing? Not happy birthday, happy MVP day. I guess we're a couple of days late because that typically happens the first of every month, but you're not at Microsoft anymore. That means you can now be a Microsoft MVP again, and you made it. So congratulations.
Hey, thanks so much. I was saying earlier I was a little concerned about I work at AWS now. Will I be allowed in the club? So happy to be back. I left Microsoft almost a year ago now, and so it's kind of nice to be back. But yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody at the summit. And also, getting all the goodies now, right? Like we get Visual Studio Enterprise subscription and Azure credits.
Yeah.
So
You get more goodies as an MVP than as an actual employee. That's how it
that's
works.
that's what I told my wife. I was like, we're basically making money now that I'm MVP.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
I can vouch for this also.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, Cliff, I think I missed last one stand up last month. So I don't know who all was here, but I think you joined around that time. But I was enjoying my holiday. Well, different story. It was enjoying ish because I totaled my car there and I had to leave it
Oh
behind
no,
immediately. Totally different story. Anyway, Cliff, how have you been doing?
I've been good. I was just back from holiday 2 days ago, so I'm relaxed as well. I was also in Italy, but I didn't total the car.
Perfect, because you were on a big cruise ship, right? Didn't I see that on?
Yeah. Bobbing around in the sea. It was lovely. I was so relaxed. I've still yet to sit up, let man stand up, from being so perfectly relaxed. Good fun.
Good, and now you're back with us, so you're gonna forget about a vacation within minutes. Victor, good to see you here. We've been in touch for a long time about all the things, basically, and now you're here helping us out with the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. That's awesome.
Thank you for the welcome.
And you're in Mexico, right?
I'm in Mexico, yeah. I'm happy to be part of this core team. Yeah.
Awesome. More time zones to wake people up on.
You're welcome to come to visit Mexico. You're a nice place here.
Yeah. I've never been there. I've been close, but never been to Mexico. No. So I should change that. Kim, not from this way, not from down under anymore, but now from
no longer
for a
down
while.
under, now Central European. So
much better.
No, it's been hot. It's been hotter here than in Australia, I think. So,
yeah, for the past few days, it's been heating up here at least. So
yeah. But I've just been doing cycling and then enjoying Switzerland. Yeah.
Good. You have nice hills to go cycle on. So
lots of hills.
yeah. Lots of hills. The hills are alive. Yeah. Well, who cares about names, right? Vladislav, how are you?
Yeah. Hello, I'm fine. I'm currently living in the countryside. Yeah, and I enjoy the summer now. It's autumn, and actually it's become much colder. Yeah, even 1 week ago we have 37 degrees. Now it's 17. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, it's time to put my jacket and make a cup of tea or coffee.
Yeah. Brandon is looking surprised, but he has no idea what that is in like US units.
Yeah.
Temperature 17. Oh my gosh, that's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is either. The other way around.
We'll
Glad
see
to
what
have you here,
we do.
Vladislav.
Yeah.
Sean from the UK down here. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm slightly melting myself, but I've got multiple fans on me at the moment.
Oh yeah, I can hear
quite
them.
hot
So
in this
you
office.
probably We're not going to have you talk too much. Then we will have it. No, I'm kidding. Good. Alexi. Do I pronounce it correctly?
Yes.
Perfect.
Hello.
You're in the chat.
I am cool. My weather is like in Vladislav country. I also from Ukraine, and now it's 10 p.m. and so late, but all is cool.
Oh yeah, you're an hour. Yeah, you're an hour ahead. Cool. I'm 9 p.m. So I'm from the Netherlands for the people who don't know. And now you messed up. You got the name away. Is it like the Constian? Okay, you say it first.
Yeah. Konstantin. Yeah.
Or just okay, great. Yeah. Perfect. Good to see you here as well. I think you have been around for a long time, and now you actually joined the team here and are also on the stream. So that's really cool. Perfect. So glad to see you all here. Well, we don't have too much to talk about. I saw on the agenda, but we never have a problem of filling all the time here. So I imagine that's going to be fine for this month as well. Actually, we're getting close to .NET 8 release candidates. I think that will be released next week, the first release candidate. And then, of course, we have the big launch in November, right? So we're getting very close to that. I see Jay on the agenda. I don't see Jay on screen, so I'm going to assume that he is still in bed because he's from South Korea, and there it's always super early. So I could totally imagine that he skips this month or any month. I don't know why he gets out of bed that early for us. No, I really appreciate it. Do it. I totally understand. So we move on to the proposals for the Community Toolkit MAUI, where Brandon is going to fill us in about the media element that doesn't play when the audio is muted on iOS.
Yeah, so this one hopefully should be pretty easy, although it kind of expanded in scope, and I think we're going to scope it back. But before we do that, wanted to chat with everybody here and just make sure we're all on the same page. So long story short, if you're not an iPhone user, iPhones have a little hardware switch on the side that you can use to mute the phone or put it in silent mode. And this issue popped up because if that switch is flipped and you're in silent mode, then the audio doesn't play from Media Element. And as a longtime iOS user myself, some apps honor the mute switch and some don't. So I wouldn't say it's really necessarily a standard where I expect certain behavior just because it's been so. I mean, we wrote code and we kind of overlook this, and sometimes other people write code and they overlook it. So long story short, we've got a PR open that will allow that, and so when it was going through, somebody mentioned well, why don't we also add a parameter or a property where we can allow the user or allow the developer to say whether or not they want to bypass silent mode. But then as we dig through the PR here, we'll see that was only implemented really for iOS and macOS. So long story short, I want to move forward with this PR, but want to make sure I'm not going crazy and I'm on the same page with everybody. So what I recommended, maybe here it's back in the issue. Oh no, I'm getting lost in GitHub land. All right, let's go back to the issue. So there we go. So 2 paths forward. I think we can either implement the current PR without the property. So we'll remove that property from Media Element and just allow Media Element on iOS and macOS to play audio when that silent mode is switched on. And and then we can open up a new feature proposal to implement this API on all platforms, because I'm not an Android guy. I don't know if Android has something similar, like a hardware mute button. I'm not a Tizen guy or a Windows guy. So I think if we want to have this as an option in Media Element for future developers, the best route would be to open up that new feature proposal. But before we push through with the PR, want to see what everybody else's thoughts on allowing Media Element to play audio when that hardware silent mode switch is flipped on an iPhone. Does anybody think that's a bad idea?
I think first of all, I would say that in iPhone 15, which will be next week, they're going to remove the silent button and use action button. We'll see how it will change everything. But yeah, for old users who still have an iPhone 14, yeah, they will need to my suggestion here, can we not edit a bindable property and apply it for all platforms, and instead have a extension method that will, during initialization of .NET MAUI, in the MAUI program, we can make a platform specific option that will allow it just for this specific platform. Later, if we'll see that it's available for all platforms, we can edit a bindable property and implement for all platforms. But for now, maybe adding this property only for one platform doesn't make a lot of sense. That we may see why it doesn't work on Android or work differently on different platforms. So from my thoughts, I think that it's better to add it as a extension method somewhere during initialization of our library.
Yeah,
we already have options.
We
already have options, so we can extend it with just a new property, and it will be probably easier for us to implement it like that.
Yeah, so my idea with what I said initially is this, but thinking it through, there might be an out, right? So what this PR does is basically always, depending on if the switch is toggled to silent, it will always play audio, right? And you can see that, like Brandon basically said, in the iOS apps, you can see how developers go about that differently, right? Some just override the silent switch and they play always, which is kind of very annoying because you have that on for a reason. But I really liked, and I put that also in the PR, I really like the way, one of the few things I like about Instagram is how they go about this. First it starts silent if you have the silent switch on, and then whenever you toggle probably the on-screen mute button, or you switch the volume a little bit, then it starts playing, right? Then it unmutes, and then it actually does the thing, so that you at least kind of have the option. So what I would like for the developer of the app to have is to have the option what to do, right? I'm not going to decide to force upon them, hey, the media player is always going to play audio, and you're just going to have to deal with the user feedback and the one-star reviews, right? But what we could do is definitely implement this, and then it kind of gets turned around, right? We implement this, it will always be playing, whether it's toggle to silent, yes or no, but we still have the mute Boolean on the media element, right? So with that, they can control hey, should it be muted, yes or no, and they can hook into the events on the iPhone and whatnot and do that. So technically, from a functionality perspective, then for iOS, it will be a breaking change. But I can definitely see it doesn't make sense from the MAUI perspective to add a full property that gives the idea that it will work on all platforms when it doesn't, and we get a ton of issues saying, oh, it doesn't work. So I can totally see how we should do that without actually doing the work, which we don't know if we can actually do it. So, with all that in mind, I guess it's fine to go ahead with this PR. Yeah.
Well, I personally think that if there are ways not in MAUI, for example, to know when a physical device silent mode is enabled, then they can set, for example, the should mute from the media element already to true or to false, depends on the validation. But then this is another alternative as well for this, for like to play it with audio or not at the beginning of the video.
Yeah, I can see that, and that's kind of why I was saying like opening a new feature proposal, because yeah, Victor, I like that idea of like we could have, well, assuming the platforms offer this that we could hook into, but yeah, we could have an event that says like mute switch toggled that somebody could subscribe to, and then we would have this property where they could allow or choose whether or not to bypass it on all platforms. You know, I think yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity here with this. So it sounds like we should definitely open a new feature proposal. Does anybody, any volunteers? Anybody want to take the lead on open up a proposal where we add in a new API? So like should bypass mute button bool. API will be added. Maybe we also add in an event that developers can subscribe to so they know when somebody's checked in. But basically, yeah, we just would need to get that down on paper in a proposal so that we don't forget about it. And, you know, maybe even, you know, Archangel, who opened up this issue, could even jump in and help out with this. So any volunteers for the proposal? No one. All right. Well, I mean,
nope.
we can always remove that, and we can push through with the PR. It'll close the issue, and then if it is an effort that we feel like putting time into, then we could open that proposal later. I don't think that's a problem. It's not like this is a bug that we're gonna lose track of. It's just kind of an idea for a new feature.
Yeah, I guess the other way we could go about it is like, you know, like I said, move on with this one, move forward with this one. Then we have that. The developer can decide if they want to mute or not with the mute Boolean that we already have. And then if someone wants to do something special and it's important to them with that physical switch, then they're going to open an issue and ask for it, right? So maybe not think about. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm strongly against having the property in here if it only supports one platform, because somebody mentioned earlier, like somebody's going to open up a bug for Android that this property doesn't work on Android. And we're like, oh yeah, because we did it like that. But so I would say with pushing through with the PR, I would just remove that new property, that new API, and just by default allow it, unless, you know, Vlad had the idea of making it an iOS extension method that developers can implement.
Can we add a attribute supported platform for this property only? And in that case, it will be a warning for users that it will be not like currently have any action when they add, or well, it will produce warning for users who will get it in XAML, but in that case, we can later just remove the attribute and extend it for all other platforms when they will be implemented.
I would rather just pull that that API, because you know, anytime we add a new API, it's something we've got to maintain, and you know, we can document it. Yeah, we can have the attribute on it, but I feel like somebody's gonna blame us in the future for it not working on Tizen and Android and Windows.
We'll get a bug report with detailing the warning, won't we? I think it doesn't work. It's reporting it doesn't work on Android.
We could even put a quick sample in the docs about how you'd respond to the toggle switch, and then use the mute property.
That could be better.
Yeah.
I'm also, I don't feel like having a feature which is just a single platform is a great idea. And if we remove it, and then a lot of people want it as a feature, then it will become a feature that gets requested, and then we revisit and relook, as opposed to making it a feature now, which people might not want and might not need. So we could be making work by doing all this just for one platform, which actually no one's going to use, for example.
That's a good point. Sean is the resident docs expert. So it's 2 lines of code, which is all that anybody would have to do. Sean, what do you think about, if we just close the PR, close the issue, move these 2 lines of code to the docs and add in, we'd probably want to wrap that in like if iOS or Mac Catalyst.
We certainly can. You're thinking actually we drop the PR entirely and just document how this could be achieved? Yeah. We can. I think there are some other docs pages where we dive into platform specifics, so we could put this in.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll
Or we still can have this like extension for users and just know them that this can be used only for Mac or iOS. So what we decide.
I mean,
on the one hand, we satisfy we will have a new contributor, and so the person like spend some time and not just closing the PR. Because he maybe expect some matched PRs as all contributors expect. But on the other hand, well, also it's just 2 lines of code, so it doesn't require for us a lot of effort on maintaining, and most likely it will be supported at least for current iPhones, and I even don't know if it's need to be supported on Mac Catalyst, because it actually there is no like switch button there, right? At least I don't know about it. So this is only for iOS users, and from my point of view, we can make a small extension methods that will help users, and just if they want to use it without like copy pasting the code from docs.
So
furthermore, it's and the last from me, it's also only in the media element Nugget package. That is why it like not affect the whole like our community MAUI library.
So what if we do this? We can kind of do all of the above. So I can open up a PR to the docs. I'll add in those 2 lines of code, because that's something we could get that up on the docs today, or quickly, if not today. And then maybe we rescope this to do a extension method. But my thought there is, my concern is this scope keeps changing and growing and shrinking on this issue. So I'd kind of like to start over. And I know it's like you're saying, Vlad, somebody from the community did open this pull request, and definitely appreciate it. And we're gonna use that. We're gonna leverage it. But I think it's probably best to kind of start over. Like if Vlad, if you wanted to do a new PR that adds in that extension method, I think it would all be a lot cleaner.
Does it then open up? Does it then open up that if we're doing this for one platform on, say, media element like we're doing here, that we are then opening ourselves up to doing similar extension methods for each of the platforms in other areas of the community toolkit? You said I'm kind of saying at the moment we don't have any of these extension methods. Everything it works on platforms, or it's not part of the community toolkit, is how it currently is, pretty much. As we do it for one, then is there going to be a flood of others that might follow? Just throwing it out there as something to think about as well.
The other option is we So I think it's a no-brainer to add this to the docs. So I'll do that. But then, yeah, the other option would be, Cliff, to just open up a new proposal where we implement this on every platform. So why don't we just do that? I'll do that too. I'll write the docs, and then I'll open up a proposal that leverages this code and attributes it. But then we can close this as a bug and kind of rethink of it as a new feature, and we can encourage the contributor here to maybe run with the new proposal.
You're thinking of the new proposal being for all platforms rather than just iOS, as this one currently is.
Yeah, and I think part of that, it's investigation. Like I said, I've never used an Android phone. Well, I have Android phones for testing, but I don't know all the behaviors of Android and if this is a thing on Android, and certainly don't know anything about Windows and Tizen and how that plays in. So I think that research will be part of it. And actually, now that I say that, it should probably just be a discussion, because we shouldn't open a proposal unless we know it can be something implemented. But
yeah, I'm an Android user, and there's no Android phones I've ever had that's got a mute button on it, but you just turn the volume down to 0, and that's what you do on Android. So I don't think it'd be a useful feature on Android.
Could
be wrong.
Does sound played on Android when you're in a like silent night mode?
No, it doesn't.
I think
so. If you're in do not disturb mode, it won't place. It will play sounds of what you're in, but not other apps, and you won't get alerts from like messages arriving, that sort of thing. If you're in bedtime mode, then it doesn't only play sounds. If, for example, if someone rings your phone twice in a short period of time, it'll ring the second time. But otherwise, no, it doesn't. I don't believe it does. I need to check. I've been an Android user for years, so I need to check. But there isn't a physical button, is what I'm getting at. So.
All right. Seems there is some more thought discussion. Maybe. Yeah, let's open up that discussion. Move it to the docs for now, so people have the option to know how to go about this, and see from there.
I just had a quick look at the Apple docs, and there's about 6 different audio session categories that you can use that have different behavior. So if you chose solo ambient, then it abides by the silent switch, and then there's playback choices overriding it. So whether, if you're going to do it for just honoring the silent switch, there might actually be more value in actually considering all of those categories and actually how you could expand that. I'm not saying it's in scope of this, but this change. But I'd personally be okay with honoring the mute. So if the mute was on, we do mute and the property, and if it's not, because that's typically how a lot of apps work, isn't it?
Yeah, sure, but my problem with that is that the developer has no built-in way to change that behavior if they wanted to. Like, if they choose to ignore it, that's kind of like their choice, and you can do that on iOS, right? But we don't give them the option to. We're now putting something in the docs that allows them to do it, basically.
Okay.
Right. So that's my thinking, right? Like, as a developer, I want to have this feature. I want to have the option at least to do this, maybe. But cool. Yeah, then we come back to how are we going to enable that for only iOS and not the rest?
Yeah, and I think putting in the docs is, we're still addressing it. We're still helping the community, but it kind of helps us avoid all these gnarly conversations around one API for one platform or platform-specific extension methods, and we can just kind of kick that conversation down the road a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. If we see a lot of people who say, "Hey, we really need this," or they have a brilliant idea that we haven't thought of, then we can still do it.
And if
Okay.
we do close this one, I just wanted to comment. If we do close this, and just to go back to what Vlad said earlier about it's a new contributor, we can always go back and point them to this video where we have discussed it at length and say, look, we discussed it, and this is kind of what the team thought up. It could be reopened and rediscussed if we want to, but so we're not just kind of cutting them off and saying, sorry, thanks, but not,
Yeah, sure, and that's like I not to drag this out any longer, but that's definitely not our goal, right? Like we want to make everyone happy. Also, if you're a contributor, but I don't really know how this process went, but this is, I think, a perfect example of why you should go kind of like through the motions of that we have put in, right? Like put it in discussion first, put it in issue first. Like this is 2 lines of code, right? So it probably didn't take it too long. But if you're going to do a ton of work, you can see how this also causes a ton of work for us now, which we don't mind, right? This is important. This is why we talk about it. This is why we do these things. But now we also have kind of like the problem. We don't want to disappoint you. You have done that work. We want you as a contributor. And now we're going to have to kind of like disappoint you and say no. While actually our decision should be based on like, what is a good API? What should we want to maintain and not have any emotions there, right? So, that's always a tough decision, kind of like. But I'm not gonna know what's exactly going to happen here, what path. And like I said, this is 2 lines of code, so it's probably not gonna keep them up at night. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things. All right, moving on. Reverting, because we also make mistakes. I don't know why I just said that. Brandon, what's going on with this one?
Yeah. So long story short, there's a new NuGet package created by Jonathan Peppers, who's one of the really, really smart guys who works on the .NET MAUI team at Microsoft. And he came out with this NuGet package that I actually highly recommend every .NET MAUI developer use if you've never heard of it. But basically, iOS handles, we'll say, garbage collection differently than .NET's runtime does. And so there's easy ways that you could accidentally add memory leaks into your app. So when I saw this, I was like, this is great, because this is an analyzer that'll look at all your code and tell you where those memory leaks might be. It's not super smart to where it can say like, this one definitely has it and this one doesn't. It'll just flag certain things where it could happen. And so I got really excited. I implemented this. Vlad helped me out and reviewed it. We merged it. And then Jonathan Peppers came in and left a couple comments. It's like, well, he's like, I don't really see any unit tests around this. And, if it may or may not work the way you've done it. And so what I'm proposing here is he's totally right. I should have written unit tests around it. Part of the thing is these unit tests need to be done on iOS, which we don't currently have built into our architecture yet. So what I want to do and what I'm proposing here is let's just revert this PR, because like Jonathan pointed out, it could have an adverse effect. Like we might have fixed a memory leak, but we also might have broken some people's apps. Unintentionally, of course. So I say we just pull it out. I'll open up a proposal for re-implementing this. That'll include the unit tests for .NET 7 iOS, for example, and I'll add that blocked label until we have that available, because Pedro, our former core maintainer, is actually working on a library to help with that. So I see a path forward where this will be implemented in the community toolkit in the future, but I think Jonathan's right. I think we should be a little bit more tactical, a little bit smarter, and wait for the ability to unit test iOS comes out, implement those unit tests, make sure everything works, then make the changes in the code to see if any of the unit tests break, and we can be just better engineers. So kind of a bit of a mea culpa for me, because I'm definitely excited about this analyzer. I think Jonathan did a great job on it, but probably just not time for us to add it yet.
Just a question. As it is an analyzer, how it can break the user's application? Yeah.
Oh, no. It wasn't. It's not the analyzer that breaks it. It's the changes we made. So this basically adds a lot of weak references. So where is it? Somewhere in here. How about we just do this? Weak reference. Okay, there we go. So it changes things like anchor view is a UI view, and it puts that inside of a weak reference, or this is what it recommends. But one of the problems you can get into with weak references is, well, there's no pointer that the .NET runtime knows about for this UI view. So this will just get garbage collected anytime the garbage collector runs. And so the concern that Jonathan raised, which he's right, I agree with him, is that you might set an anchor view and then the garbage collector would get rid of it, and then you go to access that anchor view that you just set, not knowing it's being garbage collected, and now it's null. And so we've just introduced bugs. So yeah, the analyzer just goes through and gives you little warnings, compiler warnings about like, hey, just so you know, you've got a public UI view here that might lead to like a memory leak because iOS does what do they call it, reference counting for their garbage collector. And
yeah, that's right.
So so basically this would just get everything back to where it was before I got too excited and implemented it last week. So
Okay,
sounds good. Do we vote? Or do we just roll it back?
No, we don't need to vote on it. I mean, it'll need a review from somebody. But no, it's just I wanted to raise it because it's something that when Jonathan made that comment last week, I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's like I don't know how we can move forward without having these unit tests there to make sure that we don't and haven't broken stuff. So yeah, well, like I said, I'll open up a proposal that'll add it, and then we'll just say that proposal will be blocked until we can move forward with it. So, just being better engineers, doing good software engineering instead of ramming through fun, exciting new toys.
Cool.
That's what good engineers do.
Absolutely. Hey, this is new now. Let's use this. Vlad, you have been working. We've talked about this before in an earlier stand-up for making kind of like ready our package for .NET 8. I already mentioned it at the beginning of this session as well. .NET 8 is coming. We want to be prepared. I think someone raised concerns like, oh, what if I want to start testing? Where are we at with like a test package for people that can use? What's the status of this?
Yeah, as for this one, I migrated our library to .NET 8, and as you know, before when we become closer to the release to November, we're getting more and more bugs. That why does our library doesn't support this feature? Why it doesn't work with Preview 7, Preview 6, probably RC1, RC2. So my suggestion for this PR, create at least a preview package with the next release candidate. So it will help us to get an earlier feedback from users about how it works with .NET 8. If we fixed all bugs, if all our features work with .NET 8, because currently I've just make it work just like compile without issues and warnings. So the next step is just to make sure that it works at runtime. Yeah, because there are some, you can see 24 files required to change. Some of them like nullable changes, some changes related to color, where it just changed a bit. So yeah, my suggestion here is to with the next release candidate, update this PR to make sure it works as expected, and then release it like in preview package. So yeah, as you already know, we had let's say a lot of breaking changes in the next release. So our next release will be a major release, and probably with .NET 8 it will be our next release. I don't know if we are going to release something before that. So maybe our .NET 8 release will be the next our major version 6. But before that, I highly recommend to create a preview 1 and at least preview 2 with .NET MAUI release candidate 1 and 2 in September and October.
Cool.
My concern is just we don't have a workload to support preview NuGets, and kind of like you said, Vlad, if we merge this, then every future release will have to be a pre-release until .NET 8 goes stable, and then we can update everything to stable. But one thing I was thinking about when you were talking is those NuGet packages are available. So anybody who wants that preview NuGet package can come in and click on the right one. So click on one of these builds. Go to Azure DevOps here, and there we go. So every time a pull request is submitted, it'll generate NuGet packages using that new code. So we do have them here, so you can always come in and download those NuGet packages. I hesitate at us merging this and supporting .NET 8 before it hits preview, because then, if let's say a catastrophic bug fix pops up and we need to add a hotfix real quick, that's going to cause all sorts of problems, because we just don't have a develop branch, we don't have a preview branch, and it's kind of by design. And so
I'm not totally against waiting, but that's not necessarily true. I've been doing that, for example, in Essentials, where I had a preview version that was building against Android 13, I think. But there was still a fix that needed to go in the current version. And you could just take the tagged version, add your commit to that, and then build a release on top of that new tag, basically, if that makes sense. You could do it in one branch, but
it's totally doable. It's all just very manual. So now, if we create a new release, Azure Pipelines does everything. It's a couple clicks of the mouse. So we're putting a lot of more onus on us, more time on us, and we already have 16 open pull requests, 73 open issues that we haven't burned down yet, and so I hesitate to put more work on us for something that hasn't been released yet. And I know people are excited about .NET 8. I am too. But we don't support .NET 6 retroactively, kind of for the same reasons. This is just, it's too much. So that's my big concern, is it's going to put a lot of extra work, extra thought. Whereas we could push out a new release this week. We could push out version 6. And I guess the NuGet packages are already here. They're not published in NuGet. So if somebody really, really wants them and they're demanding them, then they can still get them. We're not blocking anybody. But
do we document how to get those NuGets? We just wonder if that's a kind of halfway house. At the moment, you know how to find it, but another dev might not know how to find it. If we document that, I don't mind writing the doc. But documenting how to do it, then it might help people find it.
We have that, but we might put it maybe in the official docs. I don't know if that's a good idea. I will paste the link here in our private chat because I think if I do it on GitHub, then on YouTube, then it will throw it away. So Brandon, I think you have the power. We have on the wiki of the community toolkit thing a guide on how to do that. Since 2001. Sorry, that's a long way. 2021.
Okay. Yeah, I think this could. Yeah, Cliff, if you want to give this a little bit more love, because yeah, we could definitely add a screenshot that shows Azure DevOps, shows the NuGet download. The other big thing is when you download these NuGet packages from Azure DevOps, let's jump back over there. Shame on me for closing the window.
Yeah, so technically what that guide describes is that you don't even have to download it. There is a feed where they get pushed to. So you could just get that feed. You have to get the version number from the PR, and you should be good to go.
Oh, interesting. I've never done that before. Okay, so there's definitely something we need to add, though, because this will generate NuGet packages for everything. So community toolkit.maui, community toolkit.maui.core, community toolkit.maui.media element, community toolkit.maui. Maps. There we go. And so we've had a problem where people will, well, there's two sides to this problem. If you only add in community toolkit.maui to the new preview NuGet package of community toolkit.maui that we generated, if you only add that in, community toolkit.maui has a dependency on community toolkit.maui.core. So what NuGet does is it'll look for the matching community toolkit.maui.core. And if you have not added that in, then NuGet just goes to your NuGet feed and downloads version 1 of community toolkit.maui.core. So we have to be very explicit that people have to add both NuGet packages. You can't just point to community toolkit.maui in your app. You have to point to community toolkit.maui.core as well. And that's what's missing here. And we've had lots of issues opened up over the years about that, because somebody will say that the preview package doesn't work. And it's like, well, no, you just forgot to add in community toolkit.maui.core. And we looked into solving that, because the version numbers for all these NuGet packages are always 1.0.0- whatever the build number is. And if we just had a higher version of that build number, then that would help. But either way, you got to add both community toolkit.maui, community toolkit.maui.core. And we definitely don't have that in the docs. So yeah, Cliff, that'd be awesome if you're able to give these some love. Like maybe you walk through it yourself and see what happens, and then kind of, fix those rough edges for us.
Yeah, happy to do that. And we want to do it on on this repo in the docs here, not in the main docs. Or do we want to do it in both? If I'll update it here, we'll see. And if we like it, we can move it across.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking people tend to go to the docs website to look, whereas where I go anyway, we go to docs to look for docs, not the repo to look for docs.
That's true. Yeah, like I very rarely dig into a wiki on a GitHub repo. Probably should, but I don't.
Started guide as to how to source from NuGet, so maybe we could have a subsection on the docs to point to how you get the preview releases.
Yeah, that might make it more discoverable, so that's good. All right, cool. Brandon is a lot on this agenda today, so he also talks about adding, or maybe he knows someone who wants to talk about this. I don't know, because we have a couple of people who we haven't really heard from, which is a shame because they're on this call for a reason. Add resources and style to a pop-up.
Yeah, so this one is not my PR, but wanted to discuss it here. Copying the link in the chat. Boom. So this is it's a cool proposal. It's kind of like we were talking about with a previous PR, where it's like, well, this one, it's adding new features. We haven't talked about this yet, but Kat Kat's been writing tons and tons of code for us. He makes really good PRs. Kat, if you're watching, maybe maybe join the team. We'd love to have you. But basically, this adds in the ability to use so styles and resources inside of a pop-up. And I've had a cursory glance at this PR. I think it's a cool idea for the feature. I can't see a reason why we wouldn't want pop-up to also be able to leverage styles and resources. But that being said, we've never talked about this before. This kind of came out of the blue. There's no associated proposal with it. There's no discussions with it. So figure we could at least chat about it here and then get the conversation rolling on how we want to move forward with it.
I know there is a bug someone raised to say you can't style a pop-up. So I assume this was solving that.
And I know this Cat person has been doing a lot of good PRs, I think also on the main .NET MAUI repo. So yeah, there's good stuff coming from this person in general. So that's pretty good. I don't really know what this is exactly about, but I can definitely give it a skim and see what it's about and give a little review here. But yeah, as you can see, they're very extensive in their PRs, and there is a bug attached, so it's actually fixing something that we know about that he
good
or she, I don't know, has reported themselves.
Yeah, so I guess the way I kind of see this is, well, my biased opinion is I think this is good to add. So I was kind of more curious, does anybody think we should not move forward with adding the ability to use resources and styles for a pop-up? Because if anybody has objections, then then we don't even have to look at the implementation. We can kind of kick it back. But any objections to moving forward with this?
No objections.
Not for me.
Okay, cool.
No, I don't have any objections. I think I know the technical reason why it didn't exist. It's the fact that it's not a visual element, is it? A pop-up, it doesn't inherit from that. Because there's nothing actually that MAUI or we technically render on the MAUI side for the pop-up. They're all native UIs. So in theory, there wasn't anything to style in the initial implementation, but I think it certainly adds value. It's, yeah.
Okay, cool. Who wants to volunteer to lead this review?
I'll take it.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Sean.
That's good.
Woohoo! Sean is styling master. Then we have some more. We have also a fixed path behavior of file saver and folder picker.
Yeah, so this is one. Excuse me while I copy paste this. Oh no, Safari's gone rogue on me. Everything's frozen. Okay, hopefully you can still see me and still hear me.
Yep.
Because I need to show off the code here. That's the whole point why I brought it up. Man, this is frustrating. Let's just close that tab and let's start over. All right. Fix the path. Files changed. Okay. So this is another one where the scope kind of grew, and this one's definitely my fault. But long story short, as I was reviewing this PR, I noticed that on Android, I don't even know if it's still around, but basically, file saver and folder picker behave differently on Android 25 and below than they do on 26 and up. And so it, again, had nothing to do with this PR, but it was just something I noticed while I was reviewing it. And that kind of led us down this rabbit hole with between me and Vlad and the contributor here, Manuel, where we're like, well, is there a way to still support those lower platforms? If not, how do we handle it? And long story short, it ended up being a non-issue. It still works on platforms lower than Android 25. Basically, you still get a dialogue that says like, what folder do you want to pick or what file, or where do you want to save the file? All that still works on Android. It's just you don't get to direct the user to a specific directory. So like as a developer, we can put in like we want this file to be saved in this folder. So when the dialog appears, the user's already in that folder. They can just click the save button. If you're below Android 25, then you won't get that. You'll have to navigate to that folder structure on your own. So I think that's fine. and I think we've sorted all that part out. But what we did want to do is add in some attributes to kind of let people know, like, hey, just FYI, like, technically this is only supported on Android 26 and up. So again, if we get an issue in the future where somebody says, hey, this behaves differently on Android 23, you got a bug, we can basically just close the bug and say, no, well, actually, we're aware of that, but that's why we're only focusing on Android 26. So none of that's the problem. But what I wanted to ask, and Vlad, maybe you know, since you've been in this PR as well, is Manuel also added these attributes that say supported OS platform iOS 14, which if you're not familiar with these attributes, that means we're saying it's only supported on 14 and up, but I'm not aware of any problems on iOS 13 and lower. So do we have a problem on iOS 13? Or can we just...
I added these attributes just because we, with folder picking implementation and file picker implementation, you can see that it's already marked with that attribute because we use document controller, document view controller, something like that, that was added in iOS 14 and later. And Catalyst and later. That is why I added this support today's platform. Initially, it was added only for folder picker implementation, like our internal class, and that's it. So that is why if we're already adding attributes for all other methods for all other platforms, that is why not add it for and have a correct platform supported for all other platforms. That is why I added these two as well. Okay,
cool. Then we're done here. We can we can merge this PR. Okay, that was just my question. Was oh, and I'm sorry, and you even responded. I should have. Well, thanks, Vlad. Thanks for telling me twice. Sorry about that.
It happens. Another PR, allow position change after media ended event. That sounds like something about media element because it says media element in there. So I guess this is about whenever the playback has ended, right? Then, kind of like the playback stopped and now people would like to change the position. So if you progress through the media, then it stops as it reaches the end, and then they want to kind of like pick up a slider, put it somewhere a little bit back, and then it starts picking up from that position.
I don't know about all those details, but just reviewing it, we've got an event called state changed, and it seems like that's not firing when the video reaches the end. So long story short, this one, Gerald, I reviewed and I approved it, but to be fair, I don't know much about media element. And I saw that Pedro had pinged you just to make sure that this implementation's good, because the implementation, if you look at what's going on here, it feels a little weird without, for someone like me who doesn't know the intricacies of the code, where we're no longer initializing timers and clearing timers. It's just kind of like, oh, well, I mean, okay, why? And I think that's Pedro's question. But I can say that I tested it and it does work. It does solve the bug. So I think the concern is just, is this the right way to do it? If you can double check it, Gerald, to make sure like, okay, yep, everything still makes sense, then yeah, we can merge this.
Yep. I'll put that on the list for tomorrow. Cool.
All right.
I think we have one left on the markup side. Adding hot reload. This has been the Brandon show.
Yeah. I'm not the only one that can.
He's not.
I don't have to talk.
He's not Microsoft MVP for nothing.
No, this last one's just a mea culpa. We showed the same thing in our last stand-up, and I said I would have this merged in time for our next stand-up, which is today, and I haven't yet. I still need to write the docs for this. It's just going to be one of those where I got to sit down for a couple hours and do it. So it's just, I'm sorry, everybody, if you're expecting this. I haven't done it yet, but I still want to do it. I know it's been marked stale by the Microsoft bot and says do not merge, but we're still going to move forward with this as soon as I can write the docs. So that was all with this one. There's no discussion, just an apology to the community that I haven't pushed it through sooner.
Well, there you have it. That's important too. All right. So I don't know if any of the other people have any closing thoughts. We're already over time, and I'm due for bed because it's now 10 p.m. here, so it's 11 p.m. in Ukraine. So yeah.
I was going to bring up the idea that we've chatted around on Discord around discussions, but we can leave that till next month if you want to have that as an issue for next month. Basically, to anyone that's watching on YouTube, all it was going to have a level that if a discussion got above a certain number of votes, then we make it a point to talk about it on the monthly stand-up. So a way of bringing the community into the stand-up of where if you want that to be discussed, then upvote it and uptick it and open the discussion and get some community involvement. That was my idea. I'm happy to do it every month and look after it and say this one has now got more than X votes, but what we need to decide as a community is what is that trigger level going to be. So maybe we can discuss it next stand up a little bit more and bring it in there.
Sounds good. Maybe I don't know how you've done it now, if it's in a discussion or anything. So if you're watching this back, then go to this discussion where this is in that Brandon is trying to find right now. And then you can already leave your thoughts there, and then we'll discuss more on the next live stand-up.
It's not a discussion, but I will make it a discussion. To discuss about how we're going to manage the discussions. Yeah. The idea is at the moment there's quite a lot of discussion items, and really we could do with closing some, because like the top one is microcharts. That personally I don't think should be in the community toolkit because it's a separate library, but others may think it should be. So then let's talk about it on the stand up and say, shouldn't it? And then close it and remove it in discussion. So we can manage that list as well.
Perfect. That's a good idea. We've only recently had the ability to close discussions, haven't we? So there's probably got a fair backlog in there. But I will say we're only going to discuss it next week if you get 5 upvotes on your discussion.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and Cliff, maybe it's because I was pulling this up just to see what the numbers are, right? So like if we set that threshold to 20, then we would talk about microcharts next time, and maybe full screen would get there. But maybe we do it as like a percentage. So if you're in the top 5%, top 10%, or like something like that, where because I assume all these numbers will continue to rise over the years, and if we set that threshold at 10 or too low, then maybe we just get flooded with it. But just a thought.
I'll open the discussion. I'll put some ideas in there of what I've been thinking about, because I thought that if a discussion is open and it hasn't got more than like say 5 votes and it's been open for a year, then it should get closed, because it's not the community has not talked about it, not upvoted it, so the community doesn't really want it. That's my personal thought, but you may think differently. So I'll put a discussion in there and let everyone think about it and upvote it, downvote it, whatever they want to do, and then we can talk about it at the next. If it gets more than 5 votes, just to keep Sean happy.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you everyone so much for joining right here in the studio, all of our studios, and of course in the chat. So I hope you will join us next month for October when we have the .NET 8 RC release candidate, and we're again a month closer to the actual .NET 8 version. And all of our bits. I saw one question in the chat that we kind of ignored. When is a next version coming? Hopefully soon. I think we merged some good stuff again. But we kind of we don't have a very set schedule on that. Whenever we have enough, we feel that we have enough stuff collected for a next release, then we're releasing something. So I think between now and the next stand-up, we probably should have something. Brandon has his hand up.
Just one request. Let's merge the PR that reverts the memory analyzer PR first before
Yeah,
we do
yeah,
another
absolutely.
release. But yeah, once that's merged, we could totally push out version 6. Like we've got a bunch of good bug fixes, and Vlad did all that work for, was it pop-up to bring that over to native Windows implementation? So yeah, why not? Yeah,
There you have it.
let's merge a couple
Decided right now.
PRs today and kick out a release this week.
There we go. It's Friday tomorrow, and we have a habit of releasing on Friday. So who knows? Who knows? Keep your eye. And also, it will be early next week. All right. Again, thank you so much, everyone. See you for the next month.